Hey everyone, real quick, if you're interested in booking private lessons with me, you can contact me through my website at breenmusiclessons.com, link in the description and the pinned comment. All right, so here's the CAGED system with major seventh chords. So we're introducing a fourth note into the pattern. We're gonna use D as the example for the root note, and we're gonna start with the C shape. So the C shape initially just looks like this if I'm looking at regular major chords. So my middle finger is currently on the 3rd fret of the B string. That is an octave of D. The major 7th interval is always a half step below the root note or any octave that you find. So as a result, I just need to take my middle finger off the B string. And the bar that's across the 2nd fret takes care of the rest. Next up is the A shape. This is the bar chord for D major. Again, I have to find an octave of D somewhere in there. It is located on the G string in this shape, so that's the 7th fret on the G string. So that kind of creates a little bit of a problem. I can no longer do the bar chord with my ring finger because what was the 7th fret of the G string has to be lowered by a half step to introduce this major 7th interval. So that means I need to find a way to finger the 6th fret on the G string, but maintain the other 2 frets, the 7th fret on the D string and the 7th fret on the B string. So the bar remains the same, and now I have to do ring finger arched, 7th fret D string, middle finger arched, 6th fret G string, pinky arched, 7th fret B string. Next up is the G shape, arguably the hardest shape, whether it's major, minor, sevenths, whatever. It's not a very comfortable shape unless you're playing it in its open position. But let's give it a shot. So we're gonna keep it as major, but we just have to introduce this 4th note into the picture. But like last time, I'm going to be looking for the octave of D so that I could figure out a way to lower it by a half step to introduce that major 7th interval. This is my initial thought process. I have an octave of D on the 7th fret of the G string when I'm barring. So this note is going to be lowered to the 6th fret. And that leaves me with this version of a G shape for D major 7. Not a great chord to play, but it can be useful if you're going to arpeggiate the chord. If I want to arpeggiate the chord all the way up to the high E string, I still have some usable notes in play. One final way to play the G shape in a brighter voicing is to make it a rootless version of the chord, so I don't have to worry about any finger being on the 10th fret of the low E string, and I'm left with something like this. Next up is the E shape. So again, when you play a regular D major, the E shape is pretty familiar. It's one of the most common bar chord shapes that you learn. The pinky is the octave, so that's a redundant note, and I'm going to try to lower that by a half step to introduce the major 7th interval. Now because of that, I do have to rearrange the fingers a little bit. It's a little bit of a clunky shape, but this is what we get. I always like to include the F shape as well. It's basically inside the E shape, and it's a slightly brighter voicing. And this is what the F shape would look like initially if it was just a D major without the 7th. The octave is on the 10th fret of the high E string. We saw that in the G shape. If I move it over to the 9th fret, this is what we get. It's actually a pretty usable shape because now all 4 fingers are staggered apart by 1 fret each. Could be usable to practice sweep picking as well. Finally, we have the D shape of D major. Of course, we can play it down here as an open chord. The octave is on the B string. If I play the closed shape up here, that shows up as the 15th fret on the B string. So I'm going to lower that down a half step, but the other 2 frets would remain in the same area. So the octave of D is on the 15th fret of the B string. I need to lower that down by a half step to introduce the major 7th. But the other 2 fingers can stay in the same spot. So as a result, I can now bar everything on the 14th fret for the bottom 3 strings. And of course, you can play it down here as an open chord as well. And that's it for the CAGED system with major 7th chords in mind. Please like and subscribe, and if you're interested in private lessons with me, you can check out the pinned comment below.